software testing and quality assurance. So, the outcomes. So, what you will study in this subject? So, you will study about various software testing types and select appropriate different testing types for testing the software. And you can write the test cases by using black box and white box testing techniques. And you use different approaches for software testing quality assurance. So in software engineering subject also, you are gone through the some of the basic concepts of software testing. So in this subject, you will also study about free open source software testing tools to test the software. So these are the outcome of these subjects. So you will study about different testing types, different levels of testing, different approaches of software testing, and open source software testing tools. Then, so this is the first unit about the fundamentals of software testing. Then second about the different methods of software testing, levels of software testing, different levels, like to test the unit, uh, a small module, so that is unit testing. Then module testing, integration testing by combining all the different modules. So there are different levels of testing, from small module to the large, the final projects. System testing will discuss in detail, and test planning and documentation, software test planning and documentations, software quality assurance, how we can maintain the quality of the software. Then the formal approaches of software quality assurance and automated tools, open source free testing tools. So these are the total 8 units, and the textbooks that you have to refer is Software Testing Principles and Techniques and Tools by MG Lime. So you will get the PPT for all for this particular subject, this textbook, and also Software Testing by Ron Patton, and Software Engineering by Pressman. So these are the 3 books that you are required to refer for this subject. Okay, Robotium testing, then Tosca test suite, Cucumber, APM, Wireshark. Okay, but normally the out of all these, the in the just as a student or even some of the small scale industries, they use the Selenium software testing tool. It's open source and easy to use. Even you can use for your uh, projects also. So is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
So that Guru 99 website, Guru 99. So you just go through this website. So in guru99.com, you will get all the details about the tools and the concepts, how you can use the software testing tools. So even I have created the videos for the step by step how we can use the Selenium testing tool for testing the software, that we'll discuss in the next class. So before going to the uh, in detail, we'll study the basic concept as per your syllabus, the software testing, fundamentals of software testing. So okay, so introduction to software testing. So what is software testing? It is the process that's used to identify the correctness, completeness, and quality of the developed software. It is a process. Software testing is a process that used to test the quality of the software. So identify the correctness means whether to identify whether the particular software is correct or not, whether the it is working correctly or not, correctness, completeness, all the features of the software, whether it is included or not, completeness. Okay, identify the correctness, completeness, and quality of the developed software. So that is a software testing. It is a process of executing a program or application under positive and negative test conditions by manual or automated means. So it is a process of executing whether the particular software it is working or not in terms of condition, positive or negative condition. So for example, to book a IRCTC ticket, so there is a positive condition like for example, we can book at a time only 6 tickets. We can book only 6 tickets. So the positive is that the particular field it should accept only from 1 to 6 digits, only 1 to 6. So this is a positive test cases. And for example, if we enter 0 or -1 or 10, so it should not accept. So negative conditions by manual or automated means. So we can do the testing by manual testing or by using the automated testing. Automated testing, we use the testing tools. So it is a process of executing a program or application under the positive and negative conditions by manual or automated means. So it checks the specification, functionality, and performance. And performance. So software testing, it checks the specification, functionality, and performance. So what is the objective of software testing? The objective of software testing is to uncover as many as errors or bugs as possible in a given product. So to uncover, to discover as many errors, the bugs as possible in a given software product. Demonstrate a given software product matching its requirement specification. Means the particular software it should match to the required specification. As you know, the software requirement specification document. So the developed software it should match with the software requirement specifications. And validate the quality of the software testing using minimum costs and effort. So validate the quality of the software testing by using the minimum cost and effort. So it is very important. The quality of the software, when we can say the quality of the software means the developed software, the cost should be low. So validate the quality of a software testing using the minimum cost. We should not spend more time and cost. So effort it indicates the resource, the time. So it should be it should take a minimum cost. So to go for this minimum cost and effort, we can use the automation tools. Automation tools instead of two, 3 people for testing the software. So we can use the software testing tools to test the software. Then generate the high quality test cases, perform effective tests, and issue a correct and helpful problem reports. So after testing, it generate the high quality test cases. Test cases means it's a positive test cases or negative test cases. So we'll test the software with both. So that is the test cases and issue the correct and helpful problem reports. So this is the objective of the software testing. And we will discuss some basic definitions. What is error, bug, fault, and failure. So in terms of software testing, error means it is a human action that produces the incorrect result that produces a fault. It's a human action. Error it is because of the human. So that because of that it produces the incorrect result and that produces a fault. Bug means what? The presence of error at the time of execution of the software. Fault means state of the state of software that is caused by an error. And failure. Failure means deviation of the software from its expected result. Means they should not match in the expected and actual result. Expected and actual result. For example, uh, while booking the railway ticket, so it should take only from 1 to 6. Suppose the condition is that at a time we can book only 6 tickets. So if you provide the four number means we are booking the tickets for 4 members. So it should accept. It should accept. So the expected means it should accept the 4 digit, and we can proceed for the booking for 4 members. So here failure means what? Suppose if we provide minus five, then what is the expectation? Expectation means it should not accept, it should not proceed for booking the tickets. So expectation and actual it should match. So this is the while testing the software, you will understand the positive and negative test cases. So these are some terminology: error, bug, fault, failure. Then you already know the software development life cycles. Software development life cycle. So I want to know from you that what are the concepts you know about software development life cycle. Mm. So I request anyone to just interact, just tell about the software development life cycle, because you already gone through in the last semester SDLC, software development life cycle. SDLC, software development life cycle, means the step-by-step procedure to develop the software by using the systematic approach, collecting the requirements, requirement analysis, then design, coding, testing, then maintenance. So in software testing life cycle, software development life cycle, SDLC. So with respect to the SDLC, we use software testing life cycle also, STLC, software testing life cycle. SDLC, yes, Samruddhi More is telling about the software development life cycle phases. Yes, requirement design, build or coding, testing, and maintenance. So with respect to these phases, there is a respect to testing phase to improve the quality of the software. So that is we call as software testing life cycle, STLC, software testing life cycle. So software testing life cycle. So is this screen visible? Yes, guys. Anyone? The classic waterfall model. Is it visible? Anyone? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the feasibility study, requirement analysis, specification, designing, coding and unit testing, integration and system testing, and maintenance. So this is the waterfall model. Means these are different phases, and in the testing life cycle, so as you know, so software testing life cycle, each phase is having a, a respective testing methods. So that is the uh, V cycle, or we can call it the software testing life cycle that we will discuss. So before that, we'll discuss testing life cycle. So how the testing life cycle proceeds? It proceeds with the project initiation, then system study about the complete project system study, then test planning. We need to plan for the testing, because uh, before any work we need to plan. Without plan, we won't get the succeed, because in software testing also test plan is very important. After planning, we design the test cases, positive and negative test cases. Then we execute the test cases. Then report defects. What are the defects that arise in the software? Report the defects. Then regression testing means, so after finding the defects, we'll make a changes. So that is the regression testing, analysis, and summary report. So this is about the testing life cycle. Test plan means what? It is a systematic approach to test a system, that is software. The plan typically contains a detailed understanding of what the eventual testing workflow will be. So test plan is very important, because for any software, so you do the testing, it is based upon the planning. So today we are just for this session, so we planned 2-3 days back. You have the schedule for the B class, all the subjects, because it is as per the plan the lectures are going on. So planning is very important for any task, not only the software development or software testing. So in our day-to-day life also, the test plan is very important. And once we prepare a plan, then we can go for the writing the or designing test cases. So test plan is very important in software testing. Then test case. What is test case? It is a specific procedure of testing a particular requirement. So it includes the identification of specific requirement, test case success or failure. Then so in industry there are different tools are available to write the test cases, but normally we use Microsoft Excel to maintain the all the test case requirements, test case, their pass, fail. So if you have any problem or if you are getting any issues, then just to mention it in the chat box. Then it's a very important terminology, verification and validation. In your MCQ also, you will get this. You may get you will think it is both are similar, verification and validation. But verification means the software that should conform to its specification. Conform to its specification. Are we building the product right? Specification means the features of the software. The software should conform to its specifications. Are we building the product right? Verification means the software should conform to its specifications, that is features of the software. Validation means the software should do what the user really requires. Validation, the software should do what the user really requires. Are we building the right product? Validating whether the particular software is working as per the customer requirements. Then the different testing methodologies, these are very means important testing methodologies that are mentioned in your syllabus: black box testing and white box testing. So as you already know, I think we discussed these concepts in the software engineering also. So you had one chapter on software testing. So black box testing, as the name indicates, black box, no knowledge of internal program design or code is required. So just you will focus only on the input and output. Tests are based on the requirements and functionality. So you'll provide input and you will compare the actual and expected output. So black box testing means no knowledge of internal program design or code is required. And white box testing. So white box testing, knowledge of the internal program, the coding knowledge is required in the coding knowledge is required in white box testing. So tests are based on the coverage of code, statement, branch, paths. So this is the black box testing. So black box testing means the internal knowledge means the coding knowledge is not required. So you will provide the input and you will compare the input and output. So here input and output, you will mainly focus on the features, the requirements of the software. The internal the knowledge of the is not required. Internal knowledge is not required. So in white box testing, we require the we need to analyze the code to test the software. We need to analyze the code to test the software. So white box testing. So we'll discuss all these the concepts in detail in your second and third chapters. Then methods are different. Then testing levels are different, like unit testing, integration testing, and system testing. So unit testing means we'll test a small module. We'll test a small unit module, a small module. Integration testing, it integrate all the different modules. And system testing, whole system we will test. Whole system we will test. So that is a system testing. So as I already told about the unit testing. Unit testing means it tests the each module individually. Each module individually, and it follows a white box testing. White box testing means it is done by the developers. White box testing is done by the developers because we need to analyze the code. We need to analyze the code. Just keep in mind, unit testing. Unit testing is done by the developers. Then integration testing. Integration testing, once all the modules have been unit tested, integration testing is performed. Once the different modules have been unit tested, first we go for the unit testing, then after that integration testing is performed. So there are different types of integration testing. There is a big bang integration testing, top down integration testing, and bottom up integration testing. Bottom up integration testing. So in integration means it's a big bang testing, then top down integration testing, bottom up integration testing, and mixed integration testing. So these are different type of integration testings. Then system testing means the system as a whole is tested to uncover the requirement errors. So verify that all the system elements work properly and that overall system functions and the performance has been achieved. So there are different type of system testing like alpha testing, beta testing, acceptance testing, performance testing. These are different testing levels. So that we discuss in the third chapter. Alpha testing. That alpha testing is it is carried out by the test team within the developing organization. These are all different levels of testing: alpha testing, beta testing, acceptance testing, performance testing. Different levels of these different testing levels that you will discuss in the third chapter of the your syllabus. Then performance testing, stress testing, volume testing, configuration testing, compatibility testing, regression testing, recovery testing, maintenance testing, documentation, usability testing. So these are all different levels of testing that will be helpful for your interview preparation also. For your interview preparation also, these testing different levels of testing it will be helpful. So in order to be cost effective, the testing must be concentrated on the areas where it will be most effective. So cost effective means uh, on based on the priority, we can focus on the particular modules. For example, security. If security is a major issue, major priority, then we'll focus on the security of the a particular software. So the testing must be concentrated on the areas where it will be most effective, where most effective particular modules. So that is the one way, and the testing should be planned such that when testing is stopped for whatever the reason, the most effective testing in the time allotted been has already been done. So the testing should be planned in such a way that when testing is stopped due to some any reason, in whatever the reason, the most effective testing in the time allotted has already been done. Means we should follow the plan for testing the software. The objects of any objects of an organizational testing policy that may result into too much effort and money will be spent on testing, so attempting to achieve a level of quality that is impossible or unnecessary. So here, for quality of the software, we will mainly focus on uh, test plan, test cases, and the different other parameters are there to provide the training to the employee on testing tools. So there are different parameters are there to improve the quality of the software. So, so for this today's introduction class, we discussed about what is software testing and what are the different methods of software testing, different levels of software testing. So just you just give a summary in the chat box. So just mention it, whatever the concept that we discussed in the today's class. So just write a summary. Write a summary. So what are the concepts that we discussed in the today's session, and also so software testing introduction will discuss. So testing is a process of evaluating a system or its a component with the intent to find whether it satisfy the specified requirements or not. So we are testing a software. We are testing a software or its components. Or its component means modules. We are testing the software, the complete software, or its component means modules, with the intent to find whether it satisfy the specified requirements or not. Specified requirement means one particular software is having a specific requirement. For example, for a bus reservation, reservations application, what are the features? Features like uh, we can book the number of seats, we can pay online, we can reserve the window seats. So there are different features. So we need to check whether the software it satisfies the specified requirements or not. So in simple words, testing is executing a system in order to identify any gaps, errors, or missing missing requirements in a contrary to actual requirements. So we do the testing to identify any gaps. Suppose if we not added any of the uh, any features, or if there is any error. For example, one application it supports to only one device. So we need to check whether the particular application it supports to all the devices. So any errors or missing requirements, is there any requirements are missing in the application. So we need to do the testing all these. So we have to compare this with the actual requirements. So testing is executing a system in order to identify any gaps, any errors, or missing requirements in contrary to the actual requirements. So according to the IEEE 1059 standard, according to the 1059 standard, the testing can be defined as a process of analyzing the software item to detect the difference between the existing and required conditions. That is to find the defects, errors, bugs, and to evaluate the features of the software item. Analyzing, the process of analyzing a software item or software modules to detect the difference between the existing and required conditions. You need to find the defects, bugs, or errors in a software. So who does the testing? Who does the testing? So I want to know from you. Uh, so in the chat box, just can you mention who does the testing as per your knowledge. So who does the testing? So if anyone, you can unmute, or you can, okay, software tester, end users, yes, software tester also, he do the testing job, test the software application, end user also test the application, then who else, okay, developer also, Mayuri is saying developer also test the software. Sometimes developer, sometimes means in unit testing means particular module testing, software developer test the particular module. So who does the testing? Software tester, developer, and also end users, they do the testing. Okay, it depends upon the process. So it depends upon the process. It depends upon the process and the associated stakeholders of the project. So in IT industry, the large companies have a team with the responsibility to evaluate the developed software in context of given requirements. So they check, they evaluate the developed software as per the requirements, as per the requirement. For example, 1 plus 1. So what is the result? 2. So this is your actual result. This is your the expected. 1 plus 1 means it should be 2. So your software, it should give the result as 2. The correct answer is 2. Suppose if your software is giving the answer, if your software is giving the answer as 3, then there is no match with expected and actual. So this is the actual. आपका software, the software is giving the result as 3, but expected how much? 2. So this is the expected. So it should match both actual and expected. The result should match. Then only we can say. So that is the testing process. Testing process. This is the 3. 3 means you are getting. 2 is the expected result. It should match. So it indicates your software is having a problem. Your software is not giving the correct result. So moreover, the developers also conduct a testing which is called unit testing. So unit testing, it is one of the level of testing. In most cases, the professionals are involved in testing a system with their respective capacities. So who does the testing? Testing is done by the software tester. Software tester will do, software developer, project lead or manager, and End users. So the different companies have different designations for the people who test the software on the basis of their experience and knowledge, such as software tester, software quality assurance engineer, quality assurance analyst. So these are the different designation: software tester, software quality assurance engineer, or quality analyst. These are different as per the company. As per the company, the different designations. So let me know when to start testing. When to start the testing. An early start. An early start to testing that reduces the cost and time to rework and produce the error-free software that is delivered to the client. So early start to the testing reduces. Testing reduces the cost and time to rework. See, in this COVID pandemic, uh, even though we are started the classes from the July 1st, and every year the regular semesters, they start in the July month in a different mode, in a classroom or in a online teaching. So so instead of this online teaching, if we start in the August month, then there is a delay of 1 month, and for that you need to spend more time at the end. You need to spend more time to rework. Means, so instead of spending more time at the end, so we are using this online platform to conduct the lectures in the as per the schedule from the July 1st, so that it will go as usual the last semester how you are gone through from the first day of the semester. So it is not a hectic, because if you go through the same speed, then we can complete the syllabus in 2 or 3 months. So at the end you will get the time for your preparation for examination, the preparation for the placement and all. So an early start to testing that reduces the cost and time. So in your case, for semester, time is very important. So cost and time to rework and produce the error-free software. So if you do the testing at the last moment, suppose you are delivering a software in a week and you have started to test the software, so you won't be able to do testing. You won't give the 100% dedication for the testing. So you may find the end users may blame for such a software, if suppose if they are getting any errors at the client side, or suppose if any features are not working, so the blame on the organization. So that will affect to the company's reputation. So an early start to testing that reduces the cost and time to rework and produces error free software that is delivered to the client. However, in software development lifecycle, testing that can be started from the requirement gathering phase and continued till the deployment phase. So that is your V cycle. V cycle. Here it's a requirement, design, coding, testing.
Excuse me, sir. Sorry to interrupt.
So with respect to that, you are having at the end of
Excuse me,
each
sir.
phase, you do the testing. So
Sir.
for coding this unit testing, unit testing, integration testing, system testing.
Sir, substitute. Excuse me, sir.
So testing. So testing, it also depends on the development model that is being used. For example, in the waterfall model, the formal testing is conducted in the testing phase. So it depends upon the model, because in the waterfall model, it is like a water flow. So like first requirement analysis, then the second model is design, coding, and the testing, and the deployment or maintenance. So, so this phase, the testing, whenever this testing come, then only we do the testing. So that is the drawback of one of the drawback of waterfall model. Uh, so in waterfall model, we do the testing at the one particular phase. So that is the one of the drawback of waterfall model. But in the incremental model, testing is performed at the end of every increment or iteration, and the whole application is tested at the end. So at every increment, as you know, so this is a one increment in the, we'll do the requirement analysis, designing, coding, testing, and maintenance. So this is the one iteration. Second iteration also the same steps. So for a particular small feature, we'll go for one iteration. So in iteration model, so we'll do the testing in each iteration. So this is the first iteration, second iteration, third iteration. So it will depend upon the model up to n iterations. N iterations. Testing is done in different forms at every phase of the SDLC. So during the requirement gathering phase, the analysis and verification of the requirements are also considered as testing. During the analysis and verification of the requirement, we do some verification. We do some verification of the like verification of requirements. We cross check. So this is also one of the type of testing. Reviewing the design in the design phase with the intent to improve the design is also considered as testing. So once the requirement is completed, requirement of the project, so we go for the design and we review the design. We review the architecture. We review the different functionalities in the design. So that is also considered as one of the testing process. So testing is performed by the developer on completion of the code is also categorized as the testing. Testing is performed by the developer on completion of the code. Once the code is written and if the developer is doing the testing, so that is also considered as a testing. So there are three like in requirement phase also we do the testing, like verification and validation of the requirements, verification and validation of the requirements. Then verification and validation, this is the in requirement phase. Similar to in a design, we do the review of designs, review of design, and in the testing phase, sorry, in coding also, at the after writing the code, we will do the checking the code. So that is also one of the type of testing. So in each phase, we can do the testing. We can do the testing. So when to stop the testing? When to stop testing? So you know when to start. When to start means it is depend upon the model, and also we can do the testing at each phase. So when to stop testing? It is difficult to determine when to stop testing, as testing is a never-ending process. As a never-ending process, and no one can claim that a software is 100% tested, and no one claim that your software is 100% tested. Okay, it is very difficult to cover all the tests, and there is no such software that it is we can't say your software is 100% error free. 100% error free, we can't say. The following aspects are to be considered for stopping the testing process: testing deadlines, completion of testing deadlines. We need to follow the schedule. Then completion of test case executions, completion of functional and code coverage to certain point, bug rate falls below a certain level, and no higher priority bugs are identified. So if the bug rates they falls below the certain level, means if you are finding the bugs at very low rate, very few bugs are present, and there are no higher priority bugs are identified, so in such case we can stop the testing. And also depend upon the management decision. If the management, if the organization is not spending more time, more effort and more cost on the testing, so it's a management decision when to stop the testing. So it's very difficult. So like this is the end of the testing process. It is very difficult, but we at some decision we have to take, like as per the testing deadlines or completion of the test case executions. Suppose all the test cases of that particular software is completed. If all the test cases are executed, or all the test cases are covered, then we can stop the testing process. And completion of functional and code coverage to a certain point, bug rate falls below a certain level, means if we are not getting more number of bugs, then also we can stop. But for each decision, there should be, it is based upon some parameters and also the management decision. So yesterday we discussed verification and validation. So it is very important in software testing, verification and validation. So these two terms are very confusing for most of the people, and we use them interchangeably. The following table that highlights the difference between the verification and validation. So what actually the verification and validation? So verification that addresses the concern, are you building it right? Are you building it right? Right means are you building the whatever the features that you are considered or not? Are you building it right? Right way, right path? Are you building it right? Validation, it indicates, are you building the right thing, right product? Validation, are you building the right product? Okay. verification that address the concern. Are you building it right, in the right way, right path? Are you considered the right features? So verification that ensures that the software system meets all the functionality. Software system that meets all the functionality, and validation ensures that functionalities meet the intended behavior. It should meet the intended behavior of that particular software. Verification means that we're checking the functionality. We are checking whether it meets all the functionality. Verification also takes place first and includes the checking for documentation and code. Verification that takes place first and includes the checking for documentation and code. So validation occurs after the verification and mainly involves the checking of the overall product. Overall, we are validating the overall product. Verification is done by the developers. Validation is done by the testers. It's very important. The verification, that testing process, it is done by the developers. Verification is done by the developers and validation is done by the testers. Validation is done by the testers. So it has a static activities as it includes the collecting reviews, walkthrough. Verification means what? Collecting the reviews, walkthroughs, inspections to verify the software. So review. So just now we faced some of the login issues with the students, and we reviewed what is the problem. So review, walkthrough, I checked. So again, still the students are facing the problem. So this is the one way of inspection or review, walkthrough. Okay, so it has a static activity that includes the collecting the reviews. So there may be some problem, technical problem from the student side or from teacher's account. So checking. So this is a one type of verification process. Validation is a dynamic activities as it includes executing the software against the requirement. So before continuing with the session, so I want to take a feedback. So there is a one Mentimeter. So there is one Mentimeter feedback platform is there, Mentimeter. So we'll so what you do is, as a student, you go through the menti.com. Am I audible? Yes, say anyone yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, suppose if you are using laptop, you just go through the new tab and click the menti.com, or in the mobile phone just go to the next tab and menti.com, and I will share one code that is 578634. 578634. You use this code menti.com and log in with this particular code 5786. Okay, few students are logging. Menti.com, and what is the code? Go to the menti.com and use the code 578634. So now the people changing the answers. Who does the testing? Who does the testing? Who does the testing? So I think you have 30 seconds time, I think, to give the test. So still the students are giving the. So it is a Mentimeter means
Sir, can you repeat the code?
it is visible 578634. 578634. 6 digits. Who does the testing? I think as a student you will get menti.com. Okay, I will log in as a student. Menti.com. Menti.com 587634. Okay. It's 76. Okay, maybe time off. So for this question, who does the testing? So I am using this Mentimeter first time. Who does the testing? So the correct answer is all of the above. The testing is done by software tester, developers, and end users. So all the three people, they can do the testing. Then next question, when to start testing? When to start testing? So you are required to type. You are required to type the answer. When to start testing? So you are required to. I think you are required to type when to start testing. Yes, when the software is ready. When the software is ready, you start as early as possible. Yes, at early stage. Okay, at early, at when software is ready, at as early as. So those who are using, just try to give your answer when development is done, as soon as possible. Okay, so when software is ready, in SDFC, in SDLC lifecycle. Okay, we are getting the different answers. Requirement gathering phase, after developing, after, at early, when the software is ready. I think only few students are around 20 students. So here I can see 22 students. Okay, 23 students they are using. After completion of development, after developing at each phase in the SDLC. So when to start the testing? So it is at the early stage, at as early as possible. We need to start the testing. We need to start the testing to save the cost and effort time. So this is the how to take the feedback to take the feedback from the students. We use the Mentimeter. So in the free version, I think we can add only 2 questions. So okay. So today we'll discuss about some common myths about or misconceptions about the software testing. Misconceptions about the software testing. So the first myth is testing is too expensive. As we believe testing is too expensive, that is too costly. The reality is that there is saying pay less for the testing during the software development or pay more for the maintenance or correction later. and early testings that saves both the time and cost in many aspects. So actually, the reality, what the people they do is they pay very less, like they less effort for testing during the software development. Okay, the less payments like they won't go for the testing of all the modules. So they pay less for the testing during the software development and pay more for the maintenance and correction later. Maintenance and correction later. So early testing that saves both the time and cost in many aspects. So we need to do the testing as early as possible. So if you do the testing in the early phases, the testing is not an expensive. The testing is not a expensive. So this is one of the misconception. Misconception what is that testing is too expensive. Testing is not expensive if you do the testing in the early stages, because there are, if you do the testing in the early phases, there are less number of defects they carry in the other phases. So because of the more number of defect that arises in the requirement phase only. However, reducing the cost without testing, reducing the cost without testing may result in improper design of the software application and rendering the product useless. So if you deliver the software without testing, that may result in the product useless. Okay, so the testing is very important, and testing is not an expensive if we start the testing in the early phases. So that is the first myth. The second is testing is time consuming. Testing is a time consuming, but in reality, during the software development lifecycle phases, testing is never a time consuming process. Means if we follow the SDLC phases, if we follow the SDLC phases, requirement, designing and coding, deployment, maintenance. So if we follow the phases phase wise, then the testing is not a time consuming. However, diagnosing and fixing the errors identified during the proper testing is a time consuming, but it's a productive activity, because you won't get more maintenance after delivering the software. So it is a more productive activity. It's a more productive activity. So SDLC phases, the testing is a never time consuming process if we follow the SDLC. Means if we like after the requirement, we'll go for the verification and validation testing process. Verification and verification and validation after the requirement. Then in the design, we go for if reviewing the design. Then in the coding, so in the coding, if we go for the in the coding, we go for the unit testing. So at the end of each page, we are doing some testing process. So it is not a, means it is a productive one. Initially, it may take time for like fixing the errors and all, but it is a productive one. So if suppose if you are not audible, or if there is any problem, because you can interrupt me in the middle, because my screen is the full screen mode at my side. So if you find any problem, or if it is not audible, then you just you can interrupt me in the middle. Then the third one, only the fully developed software, fully developed products are tested. My three means what we do, what we assume that only the if the software is completed, then that only we can test. Only the fully developed product are tested. So that is a misconception. Third myth. In reality, no doubt, testing that depends on the source code. The testing depends upon the source code, but reviewing requirement and developing test cases is independent from the developed code. So, however, the iterative or incremental approach as a development lifecycle model that may reduce the dependency of testing on the fully developed software. The iterative means in iterative and incremental, like for example, a particular module one. So the initially we work on the module one, and we go for all the phases. We go for requirement, designing, coding, and testing phase. So one small module. Then we go for another module. So that is incremental and iterative model. So in each phase, this is a second module in the similar to third module. So we here,
Sir,
yes,
sir, students are
we are testing the different modules, module 1, module 2, module 3. So only fully developed products are tested. It's a wrong myth or misconception. uh, where we are testing the independent different modules also. Then fourth myth, the complete testing is possible. Complete testing, complete software testing is possible, but in reality, it becomes an issue when a client or the tester thinks that complete testing is possible. It is possible that all the paths have been tested by the team, but occurrence of the complete testing is never possible. So 100% it is never possible. There might be some scenarios that are never executed by the tester team. There are some scenarios that never executed by the test team or the client during the software development lifecycle. So the this misconception, the complete testing is not possible. Okay, we can say it's a complete test, but it is not possible due to some of the scenarios, and and it may be executed once the project have been deployed. So this is one of the misconception that complete testing is possible. It is a misconception. Complete 100. We can't say that your software is 100% bug free. We can't say that your software is 100% bug free. Then myth 5 is tested software is a bug free. Tested software is a bug free. This is also one of the misconception. We can't say that the software is 100% bug free. This is very common myth that the clients, the project managers, and the management team believes that the software is a bug free. So no one can claim with absolute certainty that software application is 100% bug free, even if a tester with the super testing skills has tested the application. Even the experienced people that tested the software also, it is not a 100% bug free. Once the client or the end users, once they start to use the application, then they will find the different bugs or errors. So we should not claim that the developed software application is a 100% bug free. Then missed defects. Missed defects are due to the testers. Missed defects are due to testers. This is one of the misconceptions. Some of the defects are missed, and it is due to the testers. So it is not because of the tester. It is not because of the tester. In reality, it is not a correct approach to blame only the testers. It is not a correct approach to blame the testers for the bugs that remain in the application even after testing has been confirmed even after the testing has been confirmed. Okay, so we should not blame only the testers for the bugs that remain in the application even after the testing has been performed. This might relate to the time, cost, and requirement changing constraints. Requirement, if the user if he is continuously changing the requirements, so these are the constraints that affect. However, the test strategy may also result in bugs being missed by the testing team. So missed defects are due to the testers. Missed defects are due to testers. We should not blame only for the tester that only because of you the software is not working properly. We should not blame only the testers. So this is one of the misconception. There are many parameters that affects time. We should give more time for the testing, and it really affects the cost also. Cost may increase if you give more time, the cost increases, and if you change the requirements, then that also affects the software. So missed defects are due to the tester is one of the misconception. The next, testers are responsible for the quality of the product. Testers are responsible for the quality of the product. So this is also one of the misconceptions. Only testers are responsible for the quality of the product. No, in reality, it is very common misinterpretation that only the testers or the testing team should be responsible for the product quality. So testers' responsibility include the identification of the bugs to the stakeholders, and then it is their decisions whether they will fix the bugs or release the software. So it's the tester responsibility that include the identification of the bugs, identify the bugs in a software, and their decisions whether they will fix the bugs or the release the software. So as per the test cases, they will find the bugs. But for the quality of the product, or the whole project team is responsible for the quality of the product. Not only the testers. Testers, they find the bugs, and they will prepare a report to the developers. But only the tester is not responsible. Along with the testers, the whole team, the development team, the project manager, everyone is responsible for the, because they are working in a team and they are all responsible for the quality of the product. So releasing the software at the time puts more pressure on the testers, as they will be blamed for any error. Releasing the software at the time puts more pressure on the testers, as they will be blamed for any error, because the final software while testing, so the testers, they will face the more pressure. Okay, so testers are not only responsible for the product, even the development team, the project team, project manager, everyone is responsible for the quality of the product. Then the myth 8, test automation should be used whenever possible to reduce the time. Test automation. Test automation should be used whenever possible to reduce the wherever possible to reduce the time. Yes, in reality, yes, it is true that test automation that reduces the testing time, but it is not possible to start the test automation at any time during the software development. So test automation should be started when the software has been manually tested and it is stable to some extent. Means normally in the industry, for testing the software, they go for the manual testing and automation testing, manual and automation testing, and depend upon the project, they will prefer for the both manual testing, automation testing. Or to reduce the time, sometimes to reduce the time, they will go for the automation testings. Even some industry, they will directly go for the automation to reduce the cost and all, they will go for the automation testing. So test automation should be started when the software has been manually tested and is stable to some extent. Moreover, test automation that can be never be used if the requirements keep changing. If the requirements of the software, if it is changing, then that automation should not be used. So test automation should be used wherever it's possible to reduce the time. Next myth is misconception. Anyone can test the software application. Anyone can test the software application. So people outside the IT industry, they think and even believe that anyone can test the software. They think that anyone can test the software and testing is not a creative job, but it is wrong thing. Testing is a creative activity because testing is a very important. It is a very important process in the software development. So testing is it is a very important part of the, and it is a creative. It is not a creative means it is one of the misconception. However, tester knows very well that this is a myth. Thinking alternative scenarios because we are testing the software application in a positive and in a negative conditions in different scenarios in a different scenarios. So try to thinking alternative scenario, try to crash the software with the intent to explore the potential bugs is not possible for the persons who developed it. So it is one of the misconception that anyone can test the software applications. Then next myth is a tester's only task is to find the bugs. A tester's only task is to find the bugs. So finding the bug in a software is a task of testers. A tester's only task is to find the bugs. Finding the bugs in the task is a task of the testers, but at the same time, they are the domain experts of the particular software. So developers are only responsible for the specific component or the area that is assigned to them, but the testers, they understand the overall working of the software. So what the dependencies are and the impact of one module to another module. So this is one of the misconceptions. Okay, a tester only the task is to find the bugs. So sometimes the testers also domain experts, so they have the more experience, so they can also fix the errors. So in the last class, we discussed about the misconception in the software testing. So the testing is too expensive. So it is one of the misconception. If you follow the proper standard process and if you do the early testing, then the testing is not expensive. Then we discussed about testing is a time consuming process. So if you follow the SDLC pages, testing is never a time consuming process. Then only fully developed products are tested. So it is no doubt the testing it is depend upon the source code, but in the different phases we are doing the verification, validation and all. So we are testing the modules also, and complete testing is possible. Complete testing is possible. It is also one of the misconception that a client or the tester thinks that complete testing is possible, but in some scenarios it may be fail, and a tested software is a bug free. We can't say a tested software is 100% bug free or error free. Then the missed defects are due to the testers. We say the missed defects are due to the testers, so the time, cost and requirement changing, but it is not due to the tester. It is related to, it depend upon the applications. Then testers are responsible quality of the product. So tester is not only the responsible, the whole teams, the development team, project manager, everyone is responsible for the one who is working in that particular project. So the tester is not only the responsible, whole team is responsible for the quality of the product. Test automation should be used wherever it is possible to reduce the time. Yes, it is true that wherever it is possible, we should go for the automation tool, and anyone can test the software application. So it is one of the wrong thing, because we need to test the in different scenarios, positive and negative conditions. So the anyone can test the software. It is one of the misconception, and a tester only task is to find the bugs, but some domain experts, so they will find and fix the bugs. So these are the some misconceptions that we discussed in the last class. So those who are joined late, you just provide your roll number, first name and last name in the chat box. So the most of the people that confused with the terms like quality assurance, quality control, and testing. So the quality assurance, quality control, and testing. Can anyone tell what is the difference between quality assurance, quality control? Yes, Mayuri Agade, roll number 23. Roll number 23. Can you hear me? So the quality assurance. So the quality assurance means it includes the activities that ensure the implementation of the process, procedure, and standards in context to the verification of the developed software. Means we are while for testing the software developed any software product, we are followed a standard processes, standard procedure, and standards in the context of verification of the developed software and their requirements. So quality assurance means it includes the activities that ensures the implementation of processes, implementation of the processes, procedures, and standards. So assurance, quality assurance. Quality control means it includes the activities that ensure the verification of developed software with respect to the documentation. Means it's like a controlling means as per the document or as per the plan, whether we have covered all the testing of the software or not. So you have to ensure the verification, ensure the verification of the developed software with respect to the documentation. Not in some cases, but we need to monitor. We need to monitor the flow of testing, how we are testing the each modules. So that is a quality control activity. Okay. So we need to do some cross check. We need to ensure the verification of developed software with respect to the documentation. Then testing, it includes the activities that ensures the identification of bugs, errors, defects in the software. So quality assurance means we are assuring that the product is quality. How? Because we are following some standard processes, some standard procedures, some standards. So that is a because when we buy some any products, we go for the some brand products. So brand means what? It is about the ISI. It is ISS standard. Like normally when we purchase any project, any products, so ISI standards. Like so software products also, the companies they follow the standard processes to test the software. They follow some procedures, well qualified team. So that is the quality assurance. Quality assurance. Then let us discuss the approaches. What are the different approaches to the testing? So the approach to testing that may differ significantly as per the customer requirements or the type of the system being developed, as well as the management thinking about the software development lifecycle. So the approach to the software testing is different. It means it is vary, or it is differ. It depend upon the customer requirement. As the customer requirement changes, means we need to follow the different testing strategy, and the type of the system is developed, and management thinking, how they think to save the cost and all. So it is depend upon management thinking also. So there are different ways, different approaches are there to test the software. So the type of project, the type of customer, and the maturity development team. So these are the all parameters that we consider for the approaches to the testings. Okay, it is small project, medium project, large complex project. So for each the different category of the project, the testing approach is different. Okay, the type of project, type of the customer. Suppose if the banking software, so banking software, uh, because it includes all the user details and financial transactions. So the testing is the approach is different in the banking domain. The banking domain of banking software, the testing approach is different. And suppose if there is a hotel booking or hotel management, that particular application, the testing study is different because there is no the security is not required. But here, in the banking, security is very important for as many people they do the transaction and all. So we need to go for the different approaches for the different application. It is depend upon the project. It is depend upon the customer, the end users, those who are using the software. Okay, so the approaches are different for different applications. So there is one approach that is called as the Big Bang approach of the testing. The Big Bang approach of testing that involves testing the software system after the development work is completed. After the complete development work is completed, once we complete the development work and we go for the testing. So it is also termed as the system testing or final testing to be done before releasing the software to the customer for acceptance testing. So Big Bang approach. So this is one of the type of testing that we are doing at the end of the software, or the after completion of the development process, or before releasing the software to the customer. So Big Bang approach has the main thrust on black box testing of the software to ensure that the requirements as defined and documented in the requirement specification and design specification are met successfully. So this Big Bang approach of testing, it uses the black box testing approach. Black box testing approach means uh, as we mainly look it in the input and output. Suppose if we provide the username and password, the correct username and password, then we are logging into the that particular application, and we are accessing the features. So we are input and output. We are not bothering about the internal logic, how they developed the software and all. Okay. After the development, the product is ready, and the user is providing his he's logging and he's providing his input, and just cross check with the requirements as defined and documented in the requirement specification. So the test cases, he is comparing the test cases. So testing done at the end of the development life cycle that may show the defects pertaining to any phase of the development. because we are doing the testing at the last phase, so that the defects or the errors, bugs that pertaining to any phase of the development, such as maybe it is a requirement error or the requirement defects, or it may be the design defects or coding defect. So, so roughly saying the phase-wise defect, the origination that follows. So this is the table, the phase-wise, the effect distribution. This is the phase-wise defect distribution. In the requirement phase, there are more number of the defects may arise in the requirement phase, and in the design phase, compared to the less 35%. Then coding phase, then the other at the maintenance or at the customer side 2% error. So as why? Because we are doing the testing at the last phase. Earlier, this is a requirement phase, designing, coding, and testing at means before releasing deployment. Before deployment, we are doing the testing at the last phase. So this is the phase where we are doing the testing process. So it's a big bang approach. It is one of the type of approach, and so in this case, we are doing the testing at the last phase. Means the error may arise in the requirement phase, maybe in the design phase, coding phase, any other. So this is the effect, means the defects that arises. So what happens at the end? It takes more time. The cost may increase because we need to again make changes in the all the different modules. So this is the phase-wise defect distribution. So what is this approach? Means if we do the testing at the last, if we do the testing at the after completion of the development phase, then the defect may arise in the requirement phase or maybe in the design phase, coding phase, okay, or any other phase. So this is the defect distribution, and the if the defects that arises in the requirement means we are already completed all this designing, coding, and all, and see here around 60% of the defects are in the requirements. So again, you need to modify the designing, coding. So it consumes a lot of effort, the time, cost. So total quality management approach. The total quality management approach, if there is a process definition, if there is a process definition means if there is a standard process to test the software, and these processes are optimized and capable, and no defects are produced, and no undetected defects are left in the software when it is delivered to the customer. So this is one more approach, quality management approach. So big bang approach means what? So we are doing the testing at the last phase, and there are some defects that arises in the early phases like requirement, design, coding, and other phases. In the early phases, we will get more number of defects. So that is a big bang approach. So this is one more approach, total quality management approach. Total quality management approach for the software testing. So in this approach, what happens? We are followed a standard process to test the software, and there are no defects. There are no defects are produced. There are a standard process means like we do the early testing, and every module we do the testing, and after the integration of the module also we do the testing. So we followed some standard processes, and there is a well qualified team, well trained team. So if there are no defects are produced, and undetected defects are left in the software when it is delivered to the customers. Only few undetected, even though we are following the standard process, but there are maybe some of the defects they are undetected. the errors, the defect they are detect at the customer side. There are no or few undetected defects are left in the software when it is delivered to the customer. So total quality management approach means what? So here we are following a standard process to test the software. The defect removal costs are approximately the 10 times more after the coding than before the coding. Suppose here you can see in the diagram. So here we can call it as a total quality management cost triangle. If the errors, if the defects are arised in the initial stage 0, then the cost will be 0, because there is no defects, no cost. We are not reworking on the project. In the stage 1, suppose if the defects are arised, and to fix those errors, then the cost is the 10 times the cost increases. And in the stage 2 to fix those errors, in the stage 2 to fix the errors, the cost will be 100 times. And in the stage 3 to fix those defects, the cost may increase to 1000 times. So that's why we need to find the defects as early as possible in the early stages. In the early stages, we need to find the defects in the early stages. So what happens? The cost will be less, and it is profit to the organization. It is profit to the organization because they are not spending more time and more money. So here, if the defects are arised in the different stages, then what happens? The the company has to again assign the resources, so the cost increases. The cost of project increases. So the defect removal cost, the defect removal cost are approximately the 10 times more after the coding. 10 times more after coding. So if you do the early stages, then there is a free of, means you are not spending any money. But if you do the testing after the coding, then the cost will increase 10 times. 10 times means you have to pay more money and time before the coding. The cost associated with the fixing the problem that belonging to the requirements and design coding. If the defect is not detected in the earlier but found in the acceptance testing, if the defects are not found while testing after the coding phase, but it is found in the acceptance testing. Acceptance testing means the user is using the particular software. So if there is any problem, if you are not audible, so you can interrupt me in the middle. So what happens if the defect is not detected earlier but found in the acceptance testing? In the acceptance testing, if the errors are found or further down the line during the warranty, so it may be much more costly, because now already the project is ready, the product is ready, and if you are getting the error, means it takes more time to do the reverse back, means to go back to the coding phase, to go back to the design phase, to make changes. So the cost will be more. So the defect removal cost would be 100 times more during the production, that is at the user side, than the before coding. Okay, so after the coding, the cost may increase the 10 times. So but during the production it is 100 times. The cost will be more. The cost will be more. Then, so this may also involve deploying the people at the customer side. The loss of goodwill means they have to spend more time, so which is also the failure to the cost. The cost may increase. So in the total, so this is the comparison, how comparison of Big Bang approach to the total quality management approach. Total quality management approach. So, so this is the triangle that is for the total quality management approach, where the if we find that defects in the early stages, the cost will be zero, but if the defects are arises in the later stages after the coding or during the in the production stage, if we get, then the cost will be more. The cost of the project will be more. Means they have to spend more time. The organization has to pay the salary to the employee, means extra time for the verification and all. So it's a famous, it's a cost triangle by the total quality management. If the organization has a very good processes defined which are optimized and capable and can produce the consistent results again and again, then it gives the advantage in the productivity and effectiveness in the development. So if the good processes are defined and which are optimized and capable, good processes if they follow in the organization, and that gives the advantage in the productivity and the effectiveness. So organization, what they do, like the some process they follow, like for example, if they followed a standard process for the one of the project, they followed a process in the one of the project, and if this process, if it is successful, if it is cost benefit, if it is a successful process, success, okay, if it is successful, the process is successful, then they will follow such processes, the approach, the strategy, whatever they are used for this particular project, and it was, if it was a cost benefit, then what they do, the same process they will apply for the different projects also, different projects, because this process is giving the benefit, cost benefit. This process, one of the process, this is giving a cost benefit to the for this particular project. So the company organization, what they do, the same process they will repeatedly they will apply for the other projects to get the advantage of the productivity and effectiveness. Just to consider in your placement process only. So last year, the students, they are gone, they are practiced so many problems in the different platforms. They attended the strategy was like they attended so many practice tests and all in the department level, at the institutional level, and there was after the test there was a discussion session. So they followed one strategy, and it worked, and from last 2 years, and the same strategy also we are applying for your batch, as we are arranging some sessions, like how to face the interview and all. So that gives some confidence to the students. So this is one of the approach, one of the strategy to motivate the student, to boost the students to appear for the interview. So in this is the one of the approach. This is the one approach. So in this approach, we are getting the result. So this is the good process. This is our standard process. So that's why we are applying this process. If there is any change, if so we are making some changes also if there is any. So such standard process will apply for the project for the productivity and effectiveness. So as the stages I already discussed, so the stage 0, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. What happens here? Stage 0, there may be a stage of maturity in an organization where no verification or validation is required to certify the product quality. The cost involved is zero. Means if we follow the standard processes, if we follow the standard processes and if there is no any changes, there is no change is required, then we can say the cost involved is zero, because because here the verification, there is no verification and validation is required to certify the product quality, because the stage of maturity means the standard processors, well qualified team, they are doing the testing. Means so the management people, what they do, they will believe that they will believe the organization is not required any verification and validation. So the cost involved is zero, or the benefit derived by the investment process in the process definition, the investment in the process definition, optimization, and the deployment that make a quality free. So there is a famous saying, the quality is free. So theoretically, if the processes are optimized, so there is no need of verification and validation, as the defects are not produced at all. If we follow the standard processes, then there is no need of verification and validation. So just one example I can give for your preparation and all. So we some of the students now, they are addicted to the this for placement preparation. You people are addicted to your hacker rank and hacker. Some people are seriously, you people are preparing. So still there are some defects are there. Some students, even there is no seriousness about, because for such people we need to take the follow. The faculty is taking the follow because of these defects. There are some students, they regularly they know what is the value of the job in the market, the job in the industry, how to get. So they know, and they seriously they will prepare. But there are some students are there, so student has to forcibly, they have to make them to go for the to do practice and all. If there's standard process, means everyone, if suppose if the student, if the faculty assigns any problem statement, the students will refer some other different roads, so resources, and they spend time on to solve the particular problem statement. So if the process is good, suppose if the student is not showing interest, then so that is the, again the faculty has to spend more time to take the feedback and all. So no need of verification and validation, and defects on, means if we follow the process, if the process are optimized, if it is the standard process, then the cost is zero. Even if some defects are produced during any stage of the development in such a quality environment, then an organization may have very good verification processes, which may detect the defects at the earliest possible stage and prevent defect pre-location. So there some of the defect that not arises in the early stages. So their defects may be arise in the later stages. So for that, the organization may have a good verification process. Verification, like we can consider in our like counseling process. Suppose if the students are not doing well, the faculty or the people, they will do the counseling. It's like a counseling, very good verification process, which may detect the defects at the earliest possible stage and prevent the defect pre-location. So there will be a small cost of verification and fixing. We need to spend some time to do the verification and fixing. So, but the stage contamination can be saved, which helps in finding and fixing the defects very fast. So here in the stage one, we need to spend some time. So the cost is represented as 10. It is on a standard triangle approach, where the defects, if they arise at the later stage, then the cost will be the 10 times higher. And if the uh, again the defects arise at the later stages, at the production stage, the cost will be 100. So similar to that here also, in stage 2 also, if the defect that escapes the verification process, still there are capable validation processes for filtering the defects before the product goes to the customer. So for such to fix those errors, the cost will be increased. The cost of the to fix those errors, the cost will be increased. The cost is much higher, but till that the point of time, the defect has not reached to the customer. If the defects are reached to the customer, the cost again it will be more. So it may not affect all the customer. So the main goal is that we need to we need to fix the errors or defects as early as possible before delivering to the customers. So test planning. So as we discussed in the last class, test planning is very important for any activity. So test planning is the first activity of the testing team. So if one does not plan for the testing, then he or she is planning for the failure. So test planning is very important, and test plans are intended to plan for testing the throughout software development lifecycle. Test plans are defined in the framework that is created by the test strategy, means as per the test strategy, and established by the test policy as per the organization policy. In that particular framework, we do the testing. So test plans are made for executions which involves various stages of software testings that are associated with the software development lifecycle. Test plan should be realistic and talk about the limitations and constraints of the testing. So test plan, it should be realistic and it should talk about what are the limitations. Suppose if you go with this strategy, what are the limitations? What are the constraints? So it should talk about the risks and the assumptions during the software testing. So test plan is very important, and that test plan framework, so it is created by the test strategy and established by the test policies. So plan the testing effort adequately with the assumption that the defects are there. So you have to plan in such a way that you have to assume that defects are there. Okay, plan testing efforts adequately with the assumption that you have to assume that defects are there in the software. All the software products have the defects. The test planning should know the number of defects it is intended to find by executing the given test plan. So first we should assume that, because everyone is not perfect. So we should assume that yes, for this software product is having the defects. So you have to plan the testing efforts adequately with the assumption that defects are present in the software product. So test planning should know the number of defects it is intended to finding as per the plan. Test plan should cover the number of iterations required for the software testing to give the adequate confidence that is required by the customers. So as per the test case plan, or the number of test cases. Suppose if there are 100 test cases, so we have to go one by one on a priority basis, so that it gives the confidence to the customers. So defects found in the testing is an investment process in terms of process improvement opportunity. So that if the defects, whatever the defects found in the testing, it's an investment because we are spending the time. So that indicates it is one of the process improvement opportunity. Means we use the different strategy, different scenario, so that will help to improve the process. So test plan is successful if intended number of defects are found. Okay, suppose if we predict there are some 70 defects out of 100, so means at least we should find the defects. So test plan is successful if intended number of defects are found. So if you are not finding any defects, then it indicates there is a problem with the software or the test strategy. So plan testing efforts adequately with the assumption that the defects are there in the software. You should find the defects in the software. Otherwise, the test plan is not as successful. So when we can call it as test plan is successful if intended the number of defects are found. If there is no defect means there may be some problem. If defects are not found, if the defects are not found, so if defects are not found, it is a failure of testing activity. So the first plan is that you have to assume that the defects are present. You have to assume that defects are present. And next is that if the defects are not found, it is a failure of testing activity. It is a failure of testing activity. So there are many defects in the software, and if no or the less defects are found in the testing, that indicates it does not mean that there are no or less defects in the product. It may mean that test cases are not complete or adequate, or the test data is not effective in locating the defects in a software product. So if you are not finding the defect means there may be like you have to change the test cases or you have to change the test strategy. So testing is intended to find the defects. Testing means you have to find the defects. If defects are not found, if the defects are not found, the testing process may be considered as defective. The testing process may be considered as defective. So every defect found is an investment as it reduces the probability of any defect which the customer may find. So it is an investment because in the future, suppose if the customer is finding the defects at the customer side, then it is a loss to the organization. Okay, the organization will lose their reputation. So if the defects are not found, it is a failure of testing activity. There may be some you have to change the testing strategy or the test cases whatever you are written that not covering all the defects in a software product. So the testing is intended to find the defects. If defects are not found, the testing process may be considered as a defective process. A defective process. So first one is that the testing, plan the testing efforts adequately with the assumption that defects are there. Defects are there, and if you are not finding any defects, that what it indicates? It indicates that it is a failure of testing activity. It is a failure of testing activity. Like suppose suppose if there is some weak student, okay, just a example, if a weak student and is like in programming, suppose in the programming test, and he's doing some copy, he's taking the code from someone else and he's doing just copy paste, and he's executing all the test cases, and he's getting like he's passing in the test, whatever the test series we conduct. So he do some copy paste and he's uh, like all the test cases are passed. So every day he do the same thing. and at the final means in the proctor test, you will not able to do such thing. Even though in the proctor also, if you do, if he or she do the copy, so it is detected by the software. So if the defect are not found, it is a failure of testing activity. Suppose if you are in the initial stage, you are not getting any error, means in the test you are passing all the test cases in 1 month. In the test series, you are doing somehow in copy paste and all, and you are attempting all the tests, but at the last, in the similar to in the customer side, we will face the problem. Okay, at the customer side, the more number of defects will arise. So in the placement also same. Okay, if you won't find any difficulty, then you are not preparing. You are not preparing seriously. Okay, so if defects are not found, it means it is a failure of the testing activity. Failure of testing activity. Successful testers is not one who appreciates the development, but one who finds the defect in the product. Successful tester means is not the one who appreciates the development. Okay, so you are done a good job and all, but one who finds the defect in the product. Tester means you have to find the defects, mistakes in the product. So success of testing is in the finding a defect and not certifying that the application or development process is good. You are not here to certify that okay, you are not doing a good job and all. Here the software tester means you should find the defects. The successful testers can find more defects with the higher probability of occurrences. With the higher probability of occurrences. So these are the test planning. So test planning means you have to plan for the testing efforts adequately with the assumption that the defects are there. You have to assume the defects are there. This product is not a defect free. And second, if the defects are not found, it is a failure of testing activity. It is a failure of the testing activity. And successful testers is not one who appreciates the development, but one who finds the defect in a product. So these are the some testing planning. So testing, one more plan is that testing is not a familiarity, not a formality to be completed at the end of the development cycle. Okay, so testing means you should not the your higher authority is saying that you do the testing. So you should not do in such a way like I have to do the testing somehow. So you should not consider it as a formality to be completed at the end of the development life cycle. So testing is not a certifying process. It's not a test certifying process. It is a life cycle activity and should not be the last part of the development life cycle. It should not be the last part of the development life cycle before giving the application to the customer. So acceptance testing and system testing are the integral part of the software development where the certification of the application is done by the customer. But the complete test cycle is much more than the black box testing. So we should not do the testing at the last only, but we have to go for the verification and validations in the middle of the software development life cycle. So verification means what? You have to check whether a right process is followed or not during the development life cycle. We have to verify that whether a right process is followed in the development cycle or not, and validation, checking whether the right product is made or not as per the customer need. Okay, you have to do the verification and validation. Verification means you have to check whether the right process is followed or not, and validation means check whether a right product is made or not. So what is verification and validation? So in interview you may get such questions. So in software testing, as a verification and validation means what it covers. So verification can find the 60% of the defects, and validation around 30% of the defects. So the verification that involves the reviews, walkthrough, inspection, audits. So you are reviewing the customer requirements, you are just cross-checking, walkthrough, inspecting the process. So verification, it involves the reviews, walkthrough, inspection, audits, and the verification can give the following: statement coverage, decision coverage, path coverage, verification in the code and all. Okay, statement coverages, but just verifying the line by line, path coverage. Some parts of the software that can undergo the verifications are coding guidelines, nesting, commenting, declaration of variables. So you have to verify whether all the declaration of variables, commenting, coding guidelines, the nesting. Okay, so just it's a review process. Verification means you have to check whether the right process is followed or not. So in this verification, we can cover around 60% of the defects we can find in the verification process. Validation means you have to check whether your product, a right product is made or not as per the customer. So validation that covers 30% of the defects. So validation involves the all kind of testing, system testing, user interface testing, stress testing. So these are all types of testings that we are validating the final product. So validation can give, so these testings we will discuss in the different levels of testings in detail. And validation also can give the requirement coverage, features coverage, whether as per the customer we are covered all the requirements or not. And some characteristics of the software that can be proven by validation only. Okay, some of the characteristics of the software that we cover by the different like performance testing. Performance testing means like whether it supports to the 100 users or not. So we'll cover the performance testing. So in this way, the verification and validation, so that we'll find the more defects. So testing process, the testing process and the number of defects found in the testing. Testing process means how we follow the testing process and number of defects found in the testing. So testing is intended. What testing means? It is intended to find the more number of defects that you know. So testing means you have to find the more number of defects. Generally, it is believed that there are the fixed number of defects in a product. And as testing finds more defects, there are chances of customer finding the defects will reduce. There are chances that the customer will find the less defects, because as you are by using your process, the testing find the more number of defects. There are chances that the customer will finding the defects will reduce, because you are doing the testing process and all, and customer may find very less number of defects. But actually the scenario is reverse. As we find more and more defects in a product, there is a possibility of finding some more defects. As the testers, if they find more and more defects, there is a possibility that there are some more defects may arise. So this is based on the principle that every application has a defects, and every test team has some efficiency of finding the defects. So it is based on the principle that every software application has a defects, and every testing team has the capability, has the efficiency of finding the more number of defects. So as we find more and more defects, we get more number of defects. So it is governed by the test team, the defect finding ability. Defect finding ability. Let us say the organizational statistics that show that after a considerable testing and the use of the application by the user, the number of defects found is 3. So after a considerable testing, after a considerable we done the testing, and that particular application is used by the user, and there are number of defects found is 3 per 1000 lines of a code. We found there are 3 defects per 1000 lines of code. So test planning must intend to find 3 defects. The test planning, you should plan in such a way that find the 3 defects per 1000 lines of a code for the program under testing. Okay, so if there is a statistic like for example, there is some organization statistic like if there are 10 defects they are finding per 1000 lines of code, 1000 lines of code, then you have to prepare you have to prepare a test plan that you can find the 10 defects per 1000 for the program or application that under testing. So the number of defects found after considerable testing will always indicate the possibility of the existing number of defects. So this diagram that shows the relationship between the number of defects that found and probability of finding more number of defects. So this the probability of detecting more defects, the number of means as we find more number of defects, as we find more number of defects, there is a probability of detecting more defects. So this is based on the principle, based on the capability of the testing team. As we find more number of defects, the more and more defects will arise. So if we find very less defects, then the less number of defects will arise. So there's a principle, every application has defects and every test team has some efficiency of finding the defects. As we find more and more defects in a product, there is a probability of finding the some more defects. The probability of some more defects. Challenges. Okay, so this principle you should keep in mind. Okay, so it applies to your, suppose normally if you in the initially like while practicing your programming and all, so in the initially you will like how much you spend. If you spend less time for the practice, you will get a less benefit. If you spend more time and more opportunity, or you will get a successful. How much the time you spend for the programming. If you spend more time for the practice, so definitely you will get a successful. Like you will successful means like you will get your dream job. You will get a dream job. So how much you spend? It is not an ending process. After experience, okay, again you will get the success. So as how much you find the defects, if you find less defects, then the less defects will arise. If you find more number of defects, then more successful. More number of defects, and in your career you will get success. Okay. Challenging testing is a challenging job. Challenges in the software testing. It's a challenging job. Challenging in testings are different on different fronts. On one front, it needs to tackle with the problems that are associated with the development team. the problems that are associated with the development team. On the second front, it has the customers to tackle with the management may have the problems with understanding the testing approach and may consider it is an obstacle to be crossed before delivering the product to the customer. See, there are it's a very challenging process, software testing. As one is that you have to deal with the development team. As sometimes what happens, the development team they won't cooperate with the testing teams, or they won't spend more time with the testing team. So you have to tackle the problems that are associated with the development team. Okay, sometimes generally what happens, the development team just they will develop the product and they will hand over to the testing team, and they will provide all the documents and whatever they are referred. So what happens, they suppose if the testing team, if they are not understood or if they need some clarification, so it is difficult to uh, it is difficult to cooperate. It is difficult. So there may be problems related to testing process as well as development process. So major changes they face by the test team. So what are the challenges? Challenges we'll discuss. The requirements are not clear, complete, consistent, measurable, and testable. So these may create some problems in defining the test scenario. In the test scenario and test cases. Sometimes a configuration management issue is faced when the development team makes changes in the requirement. So requirements may be wrongly documented, the requirements that may be wrongly documented and interpreted by the business analyst and system analyst. So these knowledgeable people are supposed to gather the requirement of the customers by understanding their business workflow, but sometimes they are prejudiced based on their earlier experience. So they will sometimes they will assume the some of the requirements and based upon their experience. So these are some of the challenges, and code logic may be difficult to capture code logic by the development team. So that is difficult to capture by the testers. So often testers are not responsible or not able to understand the code due to the lack of technical knowledge. So on the other hand, sometimes testers they do not have the access to the code files. So this is also the challenge that is faced by the testers, and error handling may be difficult to capture. So there are many combinations of errors, various error messages, controls are required, such as detective controls, corrective controls, and suggestive controls. Okay, so these are the some of the challenges that we face in the software testing. So testing team strategy. It is depend upon the organization and also the product that is being developed to define a test team. So for test team, the type of it is depend upon the type of organization and type of product. So there may or may not be a separate team for doing the testing if the management does not recognize its importance. Okay. Like for example, just one simple example that I can share. Some the only few people uh, the one person if he does some multiple task. Okay, if suppose if the person he has a capability, the person has a capability to do the multiple task, then the organization what they do, so instead of hiring the some other person, so they will just assign the task to the only one person by increasing his salary. Okay, so for example, like if there are two testers are required for a project, if there are two testers are required for a project, so suppose if the one person is capable and he's like expert, okay, so instead of hiring the two people, what they do, so they will hire only one experienced candidate, only one experienced candidate. Okay, So if they hire two people means they have to pay 13,000. Suppose just example 13,000 each to two members. 13,000 each to two members. So what is the total salary monthly? 60K for the testing. Suppose if you hire a skilled person with a 50,000 salary, with a 50,000 salary, the experienced is 4 5 years experienced skilled person. Okay, these are fresher. Like if you consider these are the freshers, and these are the skilled, experienced one person. So if we pay 50,000, he will agree, and so instead of hiring two members, so they will hire only one candidate. So how much profit to the organization? So 10,000 per month is a benefit to the organization. Okay. So it is depend upon the organization. It is depend upon the organization or the type of product being developed to define a testing. So there may or may not be a separate team doing the testing if the management does not recognize its importance. If the management does not recognize its importance, suppose if the management think that the testing is not required, the development people only they work. Okay. So what they do, the management, they won't hire the testing team. Okay. The development team only, they will work as a tester, and they complete the testing process. It is up to the organization or the application under the development that the demand that scenario. So there are four approaches of testing team. So I hope it is clear. Software testing team, test team approach. It is depend upon the organization. Okay. The organization, they think that the testing is not important. Suppose if they won't recognize it's important, or that depend upon the type of product. If the testing is not necessary, if the organization thinks, then they won't they won't recruit a separate team for testing. The development team only, they will uh, they will test the software. So there are different approaches of software testing team. The first is the location of test team in an organization. The location of the test teams in an organization. Generally, the test team is located in an organization as per the testing policy. It may vary from organization to organization, or project to project, or customer to customer. There are some approaches that locating the test team organizationally. Okay, the testing team, it is depend upon the organization to it vary from organization to organization, product to product, project to project, customer to customer. So the independent test team, there is a separate independent test team. The independent test team may not be reporting to the development group at all, and are independent of development activities. There may be reporting independently to the senior management or the customer. So presence of test manager is essential to lead the test team. So here the essence of the test manager is essential to lead the test team. So this is the organization structure. So there is an independent testing team. So there is a independent separate. There is a independent separate testing team. Independent testing team. So what they do? They will inform. They will communicate to the senior management. So here the test manager is involved. Test manager. So he will communicate with the senior management. So there are two separate teams. Development team is separate, and okay, development team is separate, testing team is separate. The independent test team. So independent test team. Independent test team, they will inform to the senior management. So here test manager is involved. So this is one approach. This is the one approach that the independent test team is involved in the software development. So what are the advantage of this testing team, independent test team? So what are the advantages? The team is not under the delivery pressure. Okay, it is not under the pressure. They can take sufficient time to execute the complete testing as per the definitions of iterations or coverage. Okay, they are not under the pressure. The test team is not under pressure of not finding a defect. Okay, it is independent of team. They are not under the pressure for not finding a defect. They are considered as a certifiers of the product and must be able to find every conceivable fault in the product before the delivery. So because the independent testing team means what? They are the expert. They are the expert. Means their job is only to do the testing only. Okay, they are not doing any development work. So their job is only for the testing. Okay, so they are certifiers of the product and they must be able to find every conceivable fault in the product before the delivery. So independent view about the product is obtained throughout the process of the developer and the tester may be different. Okay, so independent means so one benefit is there. Benefit means they don't have any pressure to deliver the software. Okay, so because their job is like only testing and as per the schedule, as per the instructions from their higher authority test manager. So they will complete their work before the time or as per the schedule, and they are expert, they are certifiers. So definitely they will find the the mistakes or the defects in a product. So what are the drawbacks? The drawbacks of independent team. There is always us versus them, because here there are two separate teams are involved. One is development team and testing team. So there is some partiality. There is some partiality between the development team and testing team. Development and testing team. So some partialities. Us, there is always us versus them. The mentality between the development and testing team. The team's energy can be lost as the developer take pride in what they develop, while the testers try to break the system. Okay, so testers they will try to find more defects. The testers may not be a good understanding of the development process as the development team they tries to hide the process lacunae from them. Okay, so the development team they try to hide the problem with the or some lacunae from the mistakes of the development. So they will hide some of the details, and the testers may not be good understanding of the development process. So because uh, the development team they are completely they followed the development process and they developed a product, the coding and all. So they won't give more details to the testers. Sometimes the management may be inclined excessively toward the development team or test team. So sometimes the management what they do they will prefer the like they will more focus towards only the development team. For example, if suppose if there is an increment, if there is an increment or if there is a bonus, so or sometimes they give only more priority to the development team. Okay, or testing. The testing team, some of the organizations they give less priority, less importance to the testing team, and the other team may feel that they have the no value in the organization. So the organization, the management have to equally they have to consider, but in some of the small scale industries, so they give some less importance to the testing, and so that is a drawback of the independent testing. The advantage is that so there is no the delivery pressure or they are expert and they will find more number of defects, and the drawback is the independent is disadvantage is there is some uh, like partiality the two different teams, development team and there is no proper communication between the development team and testing teams. And also the organization also they will give some less importance to the one of the team, either development or testing team. So that is the drawback of, and also the development team they hide some details in the details of the development process to testers. So that is a one approach. Independent test team is the one approach. Test team. So what is this approach here? The testing team they are reporting to the who? The senior management. There are two teams are there. The development team and testing team. Both team they are reporting to the senior management. So another approach is that the development team and test team. So the development and testing team. So what they are doing, they are reporting to development manager. This is also one of the approach. One of approach is that testing team they are informing to their senior management. Okay, senior management. Another approach is that the independent test team they are reporting to development manager. So the test team reporting to the development manager. If the test team is reporting to development manager, then they can be involved from the start of the project till the project is finally closed. They can be involved from the start of the project till the project is finally closed. Such a test team. Okay, so this is the test team. So they are reporting to development manager. So development manager means he is mainly focused on the development team. So advantage of the test team reporting to the development manager is that there is a better cooperation between the development team and test team. So that we found the drawback. This drawback we found in the first one, the first case. Here the testing team is reporting to senior management. So there was a drawback that there is some miscommunication between the development and there is no proper communication between the development team and testing team. So here the advantage is that there is a better cooperation between the development and testing team because of whom? The development manager. As both are the part of the same team. Okay, both are the part of the same team. The test team can be involved in the development and verification validation activities from the start of the project. The test team also they can involve because that here development manager is involved. So development manager is involved. So they can involve from the start. They can involve from the start of the process. The tester may get a good understanding of the development process and can help in the process improvement. So the drawbacks of this test team reporting to the development manager is that expert advice in the form of test manager may not be available to the tester. The advice test manager means he is an experienced person. So the expert advice in the form of test manager is that may not be available to the tester in case of the tester needs some guidance or mentoring. So they may have to rely on the external person. So for testing, if the testing is important means here like the development manager is involved here because the testing team they are communicating to the development manager. So here the test manager is not involved, or the test manager role is not there. Here. Like there are two teams, development team and testing team. So both they are informing to the development manager. So that one role is not there. The test manager role is not there. So that is one of the drawback. Sometimes sometimes the development manager are more inclined towards the development team. So what they do, the development manager, he's more inclined toward the development team. He more focus, he more focus or more importance. He give the more importance to the development team, and the defects found by the test team are considered as hurdles in the delivery process. Often the tester, they start perceiving the product from the developer's angle, and their defect finding ability reduces. Okay, so the defect finding ability is reduces. So these are the drawback of a test team. They are reporting to the development manager. The first approach is that the testing team. This is one approach. The organization, it is depend upon the organization to organization. It is depend upon the product to product how they use for their benefit. Like here, there are two teams: independent testing team and a development team. The testing team is informing to the senior management, and the other approach is that testing team is informing to the development manager. Okay, so the another approach, okay, the testers developers becoming the testers. Sometimes those who work as the developer in the initial stage, this is one approach, huh? The developers they are becoming testers, like in agile team, like the team that consists of the developer or the tester, means the developer also he can act like a tester. So sometimes the who work as a developer in the initial stage of the development life cycle take the role of testers when the later stage of life cycle are executed. This is common practice while working with the sample software, which does not need a very structured testing. So the developers, they becoming tester can be suitable when the application is technologically heavy. Okay, the developers they are becoming testers that can be suitable when the application is technologically heavy. Means because the developer he's technically good. Okay, he know the language, he know the different tools. Okay, if the application is technically heavy, then this approach is good. Developer becoming a tester. So just one example, like the organization, what they do, uh, not organize. You consider in your placement process only. In the placement, the organization, what they do, they will recruit the student. They will recruit the student based upon the knowledge he know, or the how he captures the things very fast, how we understand the concepts very quickly. Okay, so that you can add as your strength in your resume. Quick learner. The every organization why the every organization they prefer for the quick learner, because they should work in a dual role, like they have to work as a developer and also tester. Okay, suppose if the one person, if he's saying I don't know testing, if he's saying, okay, if the company's recruitment that they want to recruit a candidate such that he should know both the knowledge, developer as a tester, both, because it is a profit to the organization. The organization will think in terms of their profit, like, okay. So if the student says, if the candidate says, so I don't know the testing, then why they select? If the another candidate saying, I'm good at the development and also the testing, I know the testing concept. Okay. So the company will prefer to the one who knows the both and also quick learner. So suppose even the student he don't know as a fresher, if he don't know, but I can study, and if I can do the as a testing, then also they will recruit, because because they will see how the students are quick learners. Okay, if you say no, then no one will recruit such candidates. Okay, so that's why, because instead of two people, they recruit only one student, so there is 50% cost saving. Okay, so there is a 50% of cost saving, so that's why. So see, even nowadays, due to the recession also, the everyone people, the work, they can, some people they can work from the home. So one just to consider one example, work from home means, like in the salary and all, for the candidate salary, the organization will pay for like travel allowance and all. Okay, travel allowance and all, it includes in the salary. So if the company, if they allows, if they providing traveling allowance and all, so in the future they may cut the cost also, because if the candidate is working from the home. Okay, if the candidate is work from the home, then they need to pay. Okay. So if the work from home, that facility is available, then the competition will increase, because there are more number of the candidates will get. Okay, so that's why you have to focus on learning, as like, you should not say like, I'm not interested in the testing, I'm only interested in the uh, development. You should not say, because as a software engineer means you should focus on development and also software testing. So that is the benefit for you people. Okay, so the advantage of this approach, the developers becoming testers. The advantage, the developers do not need another knowledge transfer while working as a tester. Okay, they do not need another knowledge transfer. He should not, like the developers, he has to inform the details to the the testers, so that is not necessary here, because he is himself as a tester. The knowledge transfer that they received at the initial stage of development, that can be used by them in the both roles. The developers have the better understanding of detailed design and coding, and can test the applications easily. They can test the applications easily. For automation, the some amount of development skill is required in writing the automation scripts. For automation, for automation, some amount of development skill is required for writing the automation scripts. So the developers can adapt themselves in the automation testing better, as they have the ability to create a code. Okay, some coding knowledge is required for the writing the automation scripts. So so it is so the developer, they can handle this work easily, and it is less costly, as there is no separate test team. It is less costly, as there is no separate test team. Okay, it is benefit to the organization, it is benefit to the company, the less costly, because there is no separate test team. It provides a stop balancing to some extent. Initially the development team is large, but as the SDLC comes to an end, the test team becomes the larger than the development team. So psychological, the acceptance of the defects is not a major issue, as the developer themselves, they find the defects. So it is very benefit to the, in nowadays, in this present scenario, the all the students, the one who want to join the company, so you should become a tester also. The developers, I think you people first you prepare for the developer, as you want to become a developer, but along with the developer you should also become as a tester. Then only you can survive, in the industry. So what are the drawbacks? The drawbacks of this approach. the developers may not find value in performing the testing. Okay, the developers may not find value in performing testing. They may put more time in the developing and optimizing the code than executing the serious testing. So it's a human nature, because he suppose he's love with the development, and like he believes that whatever the he doing the task, okay, whatever the development process, he believes that yes, everything is correct, and he won't give more time for the testing, and he may not put more time in the he put more time in the developing and optimizing the code than executing the testing. He won't give more time for the testing. So there may be a blind folds. There may be blind folds while understanding the requirement or the selection of approach, and the developers may not be willing to find more defects. Okay, they are not willing to find more defects because the product is developed by themselves. The product is developed by themselves, so they won't find more defects. Understanding or approach that related to defects may not be found. The platforms or the database related defects, they may not be uncovered, as the developers may feel that a technological limitation as per the developer technology is creating a problem. Okay, so the developers, they may concentrate more on the development activities. Okay, so what is the case here? Suppose if the developer is act like a tester, it is benefit to the organization. Why? Because there is no separate testing team, and the organization will prefer for that. But here sometimes what happens, the developer, they may concentrate more on the development activities than the testing, because that is their primary responsibility, and they may neglect testing activities. They may neglect the testing activities, and the developer needs more of the creation skills, while testing needs a destruction skill. Testing means they need to find the defects. They need to find the defects. So that is the approach. One approach is that the independent testing team. So the independent testing means the reporting to senior management, and another approach, the separate testing team, they are reporting to the development manager. So here test manager is not involved, but here there is a coordination between the development and testing team, because of development manager is involved here, and the developers become the testers. So this is also a good approach, because here there is no separate team. It is benefit to the organization, and also to survive to the candidate, to survive in the industry, the candidate has to work as a tester also, developer becoming testers, because the organization, the company, they will recruit such candidate by focusing on their profit. So these are some independent testing team. The organization may create a separate testing team with the independent of responsibility of the testing, and the team would have the people have sufficient knowledge and ability to test the software. So independent testing means separate testing is supposed to concentrate more on test planning, test strategy and approach, and creating test artifacts. So that is it. Independent testing team is very important for the some of the project like in banking softwares and all, because we need to because the security is very important, the bank transaction and all. So for that there is separate testing team should be there. Okay, it is depend upon the organization to organization, it is depend upon the product to product, it is depend upon customer to customer. So that's why the approach is different to the different projects. And this is independent view about the work products that derived from the requirement statements. Special skills are required for doing a special test, which may be available in the such independent team. So the tester working for the customers that can be seen in such an environment, because independent testing, what they do, they will try to focus to satisfy the customer requirements. But the drawbacks of this independent testing team is that the separate team means the additional cost for the organization. Additional cost, additional cost for the organization. The test team needs a ramping up and knowledge transfers, and similar to a development team means here knowledge transfer means they have to cooperate with another team. An organization may have to check for the rivalries between the development team and testing team. So these are the different roles. These are the different roles of testing team. Roles of testing team. The project manager. This is one approach. Okay, project manager. In project manager, business analyst is involved. Technical architect, developers are involved. Testers. So here we are focusing on the testing. So testers means test manager is there, test leader, and below that testers. Okay, below the test manager, test leaders or testers are involved. So this is the different roles of the testing.